when I was little, I thought if I drew all my bad thoughts on a piece of paper, they would not be in me anymore. And an adult now, and I realize that's really silly and that's not how it works, but that didn't stop me from doing it. There are definitely reflections of me in my art that I can't really express in any other way, like in my day-to-day life. I mean, it's for a person like myself who struggles with mental illness. If I'm stressed out or I'm depressed, I can't walk up to one of my friends at work and be like, man, you ever just wake up and want to kill yourself? You can't do that. But I can vent that into a piece of art. At the risk of sounding cliche, one of the things that inspires me is, I guess, my emotions, my feelings, and my opinions on what's going on in the world, I guess. 'Cause I have a lot of opinions, and I stutter a lot, so voicing them in words isn't easy, but I can sort of vent them through art sometimes, I guess.
I'm a little bit more fringe, I think, when it comes to art. I was never really good at putting art on paper or a canvas or digital media. I'm really into, like, not like sculptures, I guess, but like visible, tangible art. I got into taxidermy when I was fairly young, and I always liked it, but it was something that I never like actively pursued as a kid, you know. But I like making things that are present in the physical world. I feel like the biggest statement of taxidermy that like taxidermists by and large enjoy is taking something that is a taboo. It's dead. It's a dead thing. Like, who wants to play around with dead stuff? And making it into something that people want to touch. Like, if you put a taxidermy anything in front of somebody, they want to touch it. And to me, I think that's like, let me take this thing that nobody wanted and turn it into something that people are going to marvel at.
If I could talk to my younger self, this confused small boy who's basically everyone in his life is trying to make him this little young woman that he doesn't want to be, I would tell him to just keep trying. Which is, it sounds like a very simple thing to say, but saying to this little boy who I know is going to grow up and be abused and try to kill himself multiple times and be told in every manner of way that he's not what he knows he is, I would just tell him to keep going, keep trying.
I think I would definitely encourage myself probably to come out to my mom before she died, because my mom was surprisingly accepting of it, and then she died like 2 weeks later. And I feel like if I'd have come out to my mom much earlier on, we'd have gone through that rough patch that every parent goes through, where it's like, oh, what do I do? Wait, my child's not one of the X-Men, and then, you know, you move on. I think that my time as a little trans kid probably could have been a lot easier if my family had known about it. What remains of my family knows about it now, and it's sort of, we don't touch on it. Like, I've come out to my dad, and he still calls me by my birth name, and my she/her pronouns, and I don't even bother correcting him because it's not worth it. I know he's not ever gonna call me what I want or treat me how I want, probably until I look how I want.
I'm not out to my family. I'm not out as transgender to my family, but because I live so far away from them, they don't see me every day and I can't really tell the difference. But I wasn't out to them at all as far as, like, my orientation, and I basically had to sit my mom down and be like, so, Mom, I'm super gay, and I'm gonna move to Tennessee and be with Zeke. And she was like, okay, cool. And that was the scariest lead up to the easiest conversation I've ever had in my life.
Transitioning is the most grueling thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Once a week, I perform a process that my doctor very affectionately calls pushing cement through a drinking straw. Testosterone is an oil. It is not a watery liquid, so it's viscous. I inject a 0.5 ml of it into my thigh once a week, every week. for the rest of my foreseeable life. This is it. This is me now, you know? But the changes that have happened, like my voice has dropped, and I have facial hair growing, and the shape of my face is changing, and my hairline is changing, and my weight is distributed differently. My shoulders have gotten a little bit more broad. And then emotionally too, is not just like, people will tell you about like being transgender, like, oh, you know, they'll touch on dysphoria and like, oh, I have a beard, and then like I also have a vagina, and that throws me off. But nobody talks about how possessive you get. It really is a kick in the gut when you're like eating some food and someone reaches over and you get really offended about it. Like, and it's I always joke about the Joey doesn't share food episode of Friends, but that's, I mean, like, it's a joke because it's funny, but then like it happened to me and I was like, oh my god. Like,
when you know that at the end of a long day you can come home to that one person who cares that you had a bad day and who cares about what's on your mind and who actually wants to hear about it, and it makes me feel safe. At the end of the day, we're still people, you know? Treat us like people. Let us do the same things you do. You know, let us swim in the pool. Let us try on clothes. Let us get married. Let us change our names.
please.
Please. Did you know that in Tennessee, in order for me to legally change my name to Graham, I have to have a surgery first? So if we want to get married with our names being the way, with our names reflecting who we are, just our names, just our first names, we have to pay thousands of dollars to have body-altering surgeries, which, yes, we want, but who has that kind of money up front just to get your name changed?
I think that we're about to see a big shift in the world, and not just because of recent political events, but because of past political events too. You know, in the past 8 years, my community, my people, you know, Hispanic, Latino people, gay people, transgender people, we've made such huge strides in where we are here in this country and in the world, you know? I mean, I've seen my friends internationally have changes made because their countries are taking after the lead that our country has taken, and now we're sort of seeing things from the other side. And a lot of us were young and weren't really involved in the political process 8 years ago. And so we got to grow up in basically a pretty blissful time for our communities. My relationship with Graham started at the end of that. Graham and I don't get to come up and be together in a society that is openly accepted of who we are. We are starting our lives in this era of money and power grabbing and hate. And I think it's really important that regardless of where you are on the spectrum of how you identify, of who you're with, I think it's important to, I don't want to say look at Graham and I as an example, because I mean, everybody's got room for improvement, but we're not, you know, we're just trying to make it. And I think that if everybody just tries, that's the biggest thing, you know? Neil Gaiman says make good art, you know? So do that. That's what's important. You have to value the little things in the people that you love, and you have to create things that you want to create. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what happens in 4 years or 8 years or 20 years, you know, you make good art, find people that you love, and you make it.